There comes a point in life, maybe in your mid-20s, maybe after heartbreak, betrayal, burnout, or just enough time watching people show their true colors, when you stop being surprised by rudeness. It no longer shocks you when someone interrupts, rolls their eyes, or throws a passive-aggressive jab wrapped in a fake smile. You've heard it all. The sarcasm disguised as wit, the unsolicited advice pretending to be concern, the snide comments that sound polite but are poisoned underneath. And at some point, you begin to understand something no one taught you growing up. Not every battle is worth entering, and not every insult deserves your energy. That's when stoicism, not the cold, emotionless stereotype people assume it is, but the real stoicism, starts to become a way of surviving, a way of protecting what you've built inside. Because when you finally realize that peace isn't something people hand you, it's something you fight to preserve, everything changes. You stop playing emotional tennis with people who only know how to serve bitterness. You stop letting every rude comment hook you like a fish. You stop leaking your energy to people who, deep down, just want you to react, because your reaction is their oxygen. And in place of those reactions, something new emerges. So come quiet in a way that rattles them more than shouting ever could, not because you're weak, but because you've become too strong to flinch, too centered to care, too self-aware to be dragged into the circus of their unresolved pain. Because let's call it what it is, rudeness is rarely about you. It's about control. It's about attention. It's about power. And most importantly, it's about insecurity. People don't tear others down because they're strong. They do it because their self-worth is running on fumes. And in that emptiness, they lash out. They poke. They prod. They hope that if they get a rise out of you, it'll make them feel taller, more important, more in control. But here's the twist they never see coming. When you refuse to react, when you respond with calm precision instead of emotional chaos, you don't just block the attack, you disarm the attacker. And not through violence or anger or revenge. You do it through presence, through clarity, through a quiet, unwavering command of yourself. That's what stoicism gives you. The ability to hold the line, the ability to see someone's insult not as a mirror, but as a projection, the ability to respond with a single sentence, delivered with such surgical calm that it slices through the noise and leaves nothing but silence in its place. And that's what this piece is about. This is not a list of comebacks meant to go viral or make you look clever in front of a crowd. This is about philosophy and practice. This is about learning how to stay unmoved in a world that profits off your reaction. It's about letting rude people expose themselves without you having to lift a finger. Because real power doesn't argue. It doesn't shout. It doesn't try to prove. It just is. Anu. So let's talk about how to get there. Let's talk about the kind of strength that doesn't roar. It simply stands. And in that standing, leaves the loudest people in the rooms. 1. If you're trying to hurt my feelings, you'll have to try harder. That one line? It's a warning. The kind that doesn't need to shout to be felt. It's the echo of every time you've been broken, rebuilt, and came back sharper. Because what they don't know is, you've trained for this. They think a few cutting words will unravel you. They think their sarcasm still has the power it once did, but they're aiming at a version of you that doesn't exist anymore. The version who took everything personally, who absorbed every stroke, who bled for validation. That version? Buried. What stands in its place is fireproof. See, that line doesn't deny that party. Because you've been through. So now, when someone tries to dig at you, with their lazy stroke, you don't flinch. You let them swing, and you smile. Because that smile, that's not ignorance. That's a victory page. They want you angry. They want you messy. They want you loud. Because if you're loud, they're not alone in their chaos. But instead, you hit them with quiet strength. You say, if you're trying to hurt my feelings, you'll have to try harder, and walk right past their emotional playground. Because nothing is more painful to a petty person than realizing you're immune to them now. That's the power of growth. 2. You're not on the level to get a reaction from me. This one doesn't just sting, it shatters. Not because it's cruel. It tells them, you don't get a happy. You want to see this in action? I worked with this guy. Let's call him Kevin. Kevin was that classic energy vampire, the kind who builds his ego by tearing down the room. Never direct, always clever, always hiding behind jokes that hit too low to be funny. One day I gave a presentation. Solid, clear. The room was tuned in. And then came Kevin. "Interesting point," he said, loud enough for the whole room. A few people chuckled. He smiled, thinking he scored. I looked him in the eye and calmly said, "You're not on the level to get a reaction from me." Not because I screamed, not because I clapped back with a sharper stroke, but because I didn't stoop. See, when you say this line, you're not just dismissing them, you're elevating yourself. You're telling them, I've built peace inside myself, and it's not open for negotiations. You don't get to rattle what you didn't build. You don't get to poke the bear and expect a roar. Because here's what people like that don't understand. There are, when you said, he was in some outer, the moments of them, and sometimes, not reacting. That's the deepest form of power there is. So next time someone throws bait your way, someone who's desperate to climb on your energy, just to feel taller, don't grab the hook. Just look them in the eyes and say, "You're not on the level to get a reaction from me."
3. That was a lot of effort just to sound insecure. Now this one, it's not just a line, it's a scalpel, and it cuts exactly where it's supposed to. Because the truth is, most rude people aren't confident. They're just loud. They're not bold. They're terrified. But instead of doing the work, they wear sarcasm like a crown, hoping. Let me paint the picture for you. A networking event. I'm sharing an idea. It's clear, it's sharp, and it's getting traction. Then, out of nowhere, a guy I barely knew smirks and says, "Well, I guess confidence can make anything sound smart." The laugh he was hoping for never came. People shifted in their seats. He thought he was slick. In particular, that was a lot of effort just to sound insecure. And the silence that followed? It said everything. Because here's the thing. It doesn't say, "You're dumb." Because now their power trip crumbles. Now the spotlight isn't on you. It's on their fear, their need, their performance. This line works because it flips the narrative. Suddenly you're not defending yourself. You're calmly holding up a mirror. And let's be honest. So they throw words like knives, but when you don't bleed, when you show them their reflection instead of your reaction, that's a wound they don't recover from. That's the real burn. So next time someone makes a fake joke at your expense, don't get loud, don't get flustered, just breaks, smile, and say, "That was a lot of effort just to sound insecure." Then let the silence sound. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is make them hear themselves. Closing monologue. Let's bring it home. You've been conditioned to think that silence is weakness. It teaches that you don't need to react to because rude people, they thrive on chaos. They want to rattle you. They want to control the room by making you lose yours. But not anymore. Now, your boundaries come with composure. Now, your peace is protected by sharp words wrapped in calm delivery. Now, your silence is a strategy, not a surrender. These aren't just clever phrases. So the next time someone steps out of line, whether it's with sarcasm, passive aggression, or a cheap insult, you don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to match their pettiness. You just need one clear sentence, delivered like a blade wrapped in silk. Then you walk away, because you've got better things to do than wrestle with people who don't even respect themselves. Anu. The movement of grounded power, of silence that speaks louder than ego, of self-mastery. Join us at Beyond Vision Mindset. Subscribe, comment if you've ever walked away when they expected you to break. Support with a super chat, a sticker, or buy me a coffee if you feel this energy, because this isn't just content. I don't fight fire.